Okay, hello. I am going to make a quick video to explain the website. I'll start off by showing off the website. So I'm hosting it here at lissy.org. Um, this is what the website looks like. It's a little website where it asks you for a username. You can type in your name, and then it comes up with these little post-it notes. It's supposed to be a little corkboard, and you can leave little notes and reminders, and anyone can see them on any browser that they access the site from. They'll be able to see all these reminders that they've put, that you've put, and it can be just kind of like one little communal board to post stuff on. So we're sharing data between browsers, and that data is all saved on the server. So I can start by making a little note. Work on CSE 310 homework. I can send that, and then it comes up with a little post-it note, and I can drag this post-it note around. I can move it anywhere I want. I can move them on top of each other, and stuff like that. And then we just have a little message, and that's basically all there is to it. This clear button will delete everything from the database and clear the page, which I was really using more for debugging, and I don't want to do that right now. So the website's not too complicated, but there's a little bit of code that goes into this, so I'll explain that right now. So we'll start off, I guess, with, we'll do backend first. So here's my app.js, and I'm using Express, and I'm using SQLite 3, some middleware setup, hosting my front-end files in this public directory. We'll go to that later. Here are a couple of my route requests that I've set up. So we'll talk about this first one, send. So this is what the front end calls to send a message, create a post-it. They want to send a certain amount of data to the back end where I can put it into my SQLite database right here. So first I just grab the data from the URL parameters. I have a message, a username, and an ID. Each post-it note has this information on it. Do a little, I forgot a semicolon there. I'm running this right here is kind of making sure there's no SQL injection. If someone wants to throw HTML code or some special characters, I'm not going to let that happen. We're going to check all the messages that are sent by first making sure they only contain these characters, and that goes for both the message and the username. I don't want either one of those because those are prompted. The user can add that information, and I don't want any special characters. So I'm just going to respond with the 400 status error message, and I'm not going to log anything into the database, and we're not going to allow that to happen because obviously someone could inject some SQL and could mess up my database, and I don't want that happening. I'm also just making sure the message is shorter than 100 characters because I don't want super long messages in the database to get put in. It would look messy on the screen, and it's not necessary. Here's my actual, I'm calling DB here, and I'm calling db.run, this method. DB is a database that I'm grabbing from this location in my server. I've created this SQL database, and this is where we're putting all of our data into this messages.db, a table called chats, which has those 3 columns for username, message, ID. Okay, so we're putting that in there, and then I just respond to the front end saying, hey, we've sent a message, and that's all there is to this. Here's another, if I want to pull information from the server, I'm using this. The front end calls /chat, and we're simply sending back a JSON information from the database. This is SQL, select all from this table chats, and so we're just literally sending everything that's in the database as a JSON object over to the front end. And then I have my clear that runs delete from chats. And everything else is just simple Node.js setup, Express, handling errors. We actually create the server on port 3000, and that's about it. Okay, so we can go to the front end now. Here's my index.html. I'm not going to worry about the CSS. Just, some styling stuff, making it look pretty. I'm using jQuery, I'm using Fetch, these 2 frameworks to, or libraries to I'll show you where I use that. It's really simple because all I have is this input box where you can type your note, your post-it note, and then a submit button, and then also a clear chats button. And I used to have some other buttons, but I realized they were superfluous, so I got rid of that. And a couple divs where I can hold everything. So this is the meat of the project right here. I have, okay, so I set up a couple of variables. We have an update function. This is what calls my /chat. So this is where we're grabbing all the data from the server, and I'm responding. So once the promise returns, we're going to take the JSON object called data, and we're going to pass it into this callback function here. We're going to start off. This is something I do to make sure I know how many objects are on the screen at a time. ID number, make sure that each ID that goes with the post-it is accounted for. And if it's equal to 0, it means that we haven't created any elements on the screen yet. There are no post-it notes on the screen. There might be post-it notes in my database, but the user hasn't put them on the screen yet. So I want to check if that's happening. And if that's happening, I want to make sure to make those post-it notes. So I go through for each one, and if the post-it note has not already been made, then we're going to create it running this function called make post-it note. And this is where we get into the JavaScript that kind of looks more, people will recognize what's happening here. I'm referencing a couple divs. I'm creating a couple elements, one for the header of the post-it note and one for the body. And then I'm creating a H3 and a paragraph element within those, and I'm appending certain information. For the ID, I'm just appending a little ID. The inner HTML is just going to be your username, so that each post-it note has a name attached to it, which is something I'm prompting the user for at the beginning. I'm also going to append a little bit of the message actual right here. And then I run a couple more functions on this. First, I run rand position, which is something that just puts the post-it note in a random position on the board so they don't all stack up on each other. And then I run drag element, which is what allows me to click and drag and move the post-it notes around, like I do here, that I can do all this. That works by a couple things. We grab the element, we grab the header of the element because my ID, the way I have it set up, the header is just the element ID plus header, and we're going to call drag mouse down on that element, which has a window event, which is our on mouse down when we click, and we're going to take that event to get the client X and client Y mouse position. And then we're going to use those to call element drag, which is where we actually calculate what the needed new position is based on our current position and then our new position. And then we use the style.top and style.left to actually set the new position as it's moved. And then when we're done dragging it and the mouse is released, we call that close drag element when the mouse event, when the mouse is stopped clicking. So that's how to drag things around. I have my send function. So on window load, I'll talk about this first. We call update to grab, call update right here, so we can grab all the post-its that we don't have. And then we also see if the user already has a username. If not, we're going to prompt them for one. We're going to send information here. We're going to add some all the information into the URL parameters, user, message, ID, just like I showed in the back end. It's looking for that information. For each ID or ticket that is created, post-it that's created, we want to increase the ID by 1, so we have a count of how many post-it notes we have, and once again keep track of that. Let's see. As soon as we send a post-it, we want to call that update so that it displays on the screen. What else? Clear chats. This we just basically call this backend function to delete all the data, and that deletes it for everyone. So right now, that's, in the future, obviously I might remove that function so that people can't delete everyone else's post-it notes, but for now that's how it's set up. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you so much.